Alright, let's talk about the solo challenge with Slowpoke in Pokemon Yellow. I have done this one before, so check out my previous video if you want to see my first playthrough with it. It's honestly a pretty good solo Pokemon as a first stage in Generation 1. It's a water type and a psychic type, two typings that are pretty good in Yellow. I don't really like water since the most difficult battle is the champion, and I prefer to put all of the risk at the beginning of the challenge if possible. That said, the psychic type is definitely the best typing in the game, and Amnesia is the best move in the game, and Slowpoke gets both of them. So for those reasons, we would expect it to be very good. Its stats are just kind of okay. 90 HP, so it has really good bulk, 65 attack and defense, but then things go downhill. 15 speed, which is obviously terrible. It has slow in its name, so this is to be expected. And only 40 special, which is unfortunate because water and psychic type moves deal special damage. Now, some water type Pokemon only get access to physical moves in the early game. I'm thinking about you, Seal, as well as this water type, which I will also have to re-rank very soon. Slowpoke does not fit into this category because it starts the game with Confusion, which after the same type attack bonus has an effective power of 75, and it's going to make the early game very easy. In Viridian Forest, I fight Bugcatcher 2, who has 2 Metapod and 1 Caterpie. This gives Slowpoke a decent amount of experience. Then there's only one more trainer battle in the early game for Slowpoke, the mandatory Bugcatcher. By the way, the reason I am not fighting Brock on minimum battles is just because the one extra trainer improves my damage ranges significantly against his team members. At level 8, you can see that Slowpoke both speed ties the Geodude and has a 4-shot with Confusion, and it's also going to 4-hit the following Onix. If I remove that one Bugcatcher, then I underspeed the Geodude, Confusion is a 5-hit, and there's a slight chance that I might have to 6-hit, and I also am more likely to 5-hit than 4-hit against the Onix. I can see someone wanting to do this on minimum battles, but for me, I would rather just make it a little bit easier on Slowpoke. Since in Pewter City, I am not going to be healing in the Pokemon Center, and I am also not going to be saving in front of Brock. If I lose, I'm just going to restart the playthrough. After all, I won't lose very much time because only 2.5 minutes have gone by the time I'm ready for the first gym. Against Geodude, there is some upside here, and today I get it. Confusion confuses, then Geodude hits itself not once, but twice, and it actually deals decent damage to itself. Because of this, I'm able to knock it out and take no damage from Brock's first Pokemon. Now everything is up to RNG, because if Onix goes for Bide early on, I'm going to attack into it with Confusion, and then Onix will unleash energy and knock out Slowpoke. If that happens, I just lose. What I want to have happen is attack twice with Confusion, then if Onix goes for Bide, it will speed up the battle, because it's less likely for him to use another move like Bind, which can waste a lot of time. And my second 2 Confusions will knock out his ace. It's possible to lose here, and I had a bunch of frustrating restarts during this fight, but in general, Brock is really not that bad. In this run, I get a Brock split of 2 minutes and 46 seconds, which is 7 seconds faster than my first playthrough back with Slowpoke that I played just a couple of days before this final one. I'm going to be referencing the first playthrough back as the first playthrough throughout this video, and the final time that I got with it was 58 minutes and 24 seconds. With this run, it is my intention to completely crush that time. If I'm not more than 10 minutes faster than it, I'm going to be unsatisfied. As of late, I have started deferring my Mart trip from Viridian City into Pewter City. This way, I can buy all of my items when I have slightly more money, and I can purchase them all at the same time. Also, if you need escape ropes, you can buy them now and then skip another Mart later into the playthrough. But for Slowpoke, I'm going to spend my money instead on a bunch of status healing items as well as potions, because it's very slow and there are tons of problems in the next section of the game. For example, this first Bugcatcher on Route 3 can poison me with his Weedle, and of course today he gives me the perfect example footage because that's exactly what happens. Then after the battle, I have to waste time opening my inventory healing with both a potion as well as an antidote. I also take the opportunity with the bag already open to teach Slowpoke Bide, since it's going to be useful just around the corner. Youngster Ben, this guy actually made me reset several times when doing this challenge. It was really frustrating. It gave me flashbacks to playing the game with Parasect, where this Ekans hit so hard with Poison Sting. The problem with Slowpoke is just that I move second. The Rattata can go for Tail Whip, soften Slowpoke up, and then the Ekans can just spam Wrap over and over again. I don't think that training more in the early game has any advantage to make this fight more consistent, since Slowpoke has 12 speed and the Ekans has 18, so I'm going to need significant significantly more levels in order to make this fight consistent. Risking things here just ends up being the best play. For slightly more experience, I fight the bug catcher on Route 3 instead of the Lass. After all, Confusion is very good against his bug Pokemon. Inside Mount Moon, I grab the Water Gun TM right away and then use it to defeat the Hiker in Mount Moon. Another annoying battle, which is mandatory, comes at the end of Mount Moon against Team Rocket. Again, I underspeed all 3 of their Pokemon, so there is the chance that they poison me early on. Then Ekans can stack up damage with the status condition by using Wrap. Meowth can mess me up by getting critical hits with Bite, and Coughing can also poison me or just do okay damage with both of its moves. I also had to restart some playthroughs here. Now, one metric that you might be unaware of is the fact that you need 29 hit points in order to make it from the Jessie and James battle to the Cerulean City Pokemon Center. This is one of the reasons that I really think stocking up on antidotes early into the run is important for Slowpoke. You can get poisoned at multiple different points throughout the section of the game between Pewter City and Cerulean City, Youngster Ben, the Fossil Nerd, and Jessie and James being the 3 primary cases. So for me, I think the only safe play is to buy a minimum of 3 antidotes. Now that I've cleared Jessie and James, I'm going to go right into the Cerulean City gym. Defeating just the mandatory junior trainer with her level 19 Goldeen brings Slowpoke to level 17, and then I use a single rare candy to push it up to level 18 before fighting Misty. For this battle, I'm going to be using the Zealous Pawn special, which is knocking out the Staryu with a damage dealing move, and then taking on the Starmie using exclusively Bide. This can go very badly for Slowpoke. Since the Starmie is moving faster, it can attack with Tackle and then use Harden, or she can use an X-Defend, while Bide is trying to accumulate damage. Therefore, there's the chance that Slowpoke's going to deal back 0 damage to the Starmie, which does happen in the case of this battle. And if my health gets too low, then I can't use Bide anymore. And as you can see here, chipping away with Confusion is not really a path to victory. Still, there is upside that I inflict the status condition. If that happens, the Starmie could knock itself out. So I don't think resetting right away is the best play. In the end, training more for this fight doesn't make a lot of sense, and I think that fighting Misty right away is the superior play because Bubble Beam is going to speed up my progress on Route 24 and 25. After I lost once, I'm going to flash back quickly to my first playthrough with Slowpoke, and we're going to watch me lose to Misty over and over and over again. I had a brutal time here. After I completed my first run, which by the way had 27 resets, Zealous Pawn was pretty surprised by this, and I decided to complain about the root file which he had shared with me. I thought that it was absolutely brutal, and I was so frustrated that I wanted to change basically everything because I didn't want to go through playing multiple attempts at it. He asked if it was major trainers or just random battles that were getting me in the run, and it was major trainers. Misty was one of them, and I said that she was a nightmare using Bide. Luckily for me and all of us, Zealous Pawn is very motivated by numbers, so he went and tested the Misty battle. For me, I was thinking it was going to be like 1 in 5 chance to win or 2 in 5 chance to win, but when he tested it, he got a result of 5 in 5. So that suggests that it's a coin flip, and I was just getting very unlucky in my first playthrough. Then I went and tested it myself to get another set of data, and I went 8 and 2 against her, which is a lot better than a coin flip. I do think that I got very unlucky during my first run. So let's come back to my follow-up now, and in this case, I only had 1 reset to Misty, beating her on my second attempt. With her finished, I teach Bubble Beam in the place of Disable. With a more powerful special move, the rival in Cerulean City is incredibly easy. The only way Slowpoke can really lose here is because it is slower than the Sandshrew by 1 speed, a truly unfortunate reality. If I get hit by Sand Attack, then potentially I could lose. Luckily in this attempt, the Sandshrew just goes for Scratch. It has a 50-50% chance of rolling either one of the moves, so overall I like my odds here. Even if Slowpoke's accuracy is lowered, it can still win. With the rival out of the way, I am now 1 minute and 30 seconds ahead of my former time. On Route 24, let's talk about all of the threats. This Lass's team is so annoying because Pidgey outspeeds and has Sand Attack. This Youngster's team is annoying because the Ekans outspeeds and has Wrap, can waste time, or it can poison you with Poison Sting. Then the Zubat outspeeds and it has Supersonic, so Slowpoke could end up confused and poisoned. There's another Lass with a Pidgey, then this Rocket with an Ekans and Zubat. The same combo exists here as was present on the Youngsters team. With this Rocket out of the way, Route 25 is much easier for Slowpoke. I can even fight this Hiker, who I call the Seismic Hiker, for a little bit more experience than I would have got fighting the Youngster. The Lass at the end of the route isn't annoying because Confusion gives me coverage against her Oddish. But Slowpoke is speed tied with the Pidgey, so there's a small risk of Sand Attack shenanigans shenanigans here. And there is an even larger risk of sand attack against Sandy. Slowpoke underspeeds all 3 of these Pidgey. It also doesn't have enough damage when using Bubble Beam to one-shot them, so they each have 2 chances to attack. Strangely, in my unlucky attempts with Slowpoke, I didn't get unlucky here. I beat her every single time. In the Vermilion City Pokemon Mart, I am going to purchase myself extra Super Potions. These are critical for a slow-moving Pokemon. I don't want to be constantly backtracking to Pokemon centers, which will bleed a ton of time. I would much rather have these potions rather than an extra vitamin later on. Alright, now I want to talk about something that Zealous Pawn gave me, and that's the idea of skipping Body Slam with Slowpoke. Here's the thing, it doesn't really improve anything in the mid-game, and by the time we reach the later stages of the mid-game, our moveset is going to be completely filled with special moves. Because Slowpoke has incredible coverage. It gets Amnesia, it can pair this with Ice Beam, Psychic, and Surf. Plus, in terms of physical damage, I have access to both Earthquake and Dig, which have a base power of 100, so I can just use Dig as my primary physical damage. Even though it takes 2 turns, we have to remember that by skipping Body Slam, I am saving both the time it takes to teach the move, as well as the time it takes to battle the one optional trainer in front of the TM. So the only optional trainer that I end up fighting on the SSN is the Gentleman to get access to the rare candy. The rival here is incredibly easy. This time around, I outspeed the Sandshrew, so there is no risk of sand attack until the final Pokemon of the battle. But by this point, I have green health, and the Eevee just isn't really that much of a threat. For Lieutenant Surge, I have replaced Water Gun with Dig so I have super effective damage. He's going to get 2 chances to attack today because the ground type move only does 75 to 89% damage. And if his Raichu goes for Thunderbolt, Slowpoke instantly loses. The electric move does a minimum of 120% damage. This is an instance where the removal of Surge's good AI in yellow version really impacts a solo challenge. I could not fight him here with Slowpoke in red and blue if he had a single Raichu at level 28. I would just get crushed over and over again. He would likely 2-shot me with Thundershock and 1-shot me with Thunderbolt. And since he doesn't have good AI here, he can just spam bad moves. And then, with Dig, I can knock out the Raichu in 2 turns. Now this move is going to become irrelevant throughout the mid-game. So in Cerulean City, I purchased myself escape ropes so that I can get out of overworld locations like Silph, Blaine's gym, and Sabrina's gym. The Wrapping Lass is a little bit risky, so saving in front of her is important for Slowpoke. It has a 42.6% chance to knock out the Oddish with 1 hit from Dig, and a guarantee on both of the Bellsprout. Initially, I outspeed all of her Pokemon, but if I get paralyzed, then things can go downhill quickly. That said, I didn't have issues with her at all during this playthrough. Instead of using Stun Spore, she can also go for something like Poison Powder because she doesn't have good AI. Okay, inside Rock Tunnel, I want to tell you about another advantage of using Headbutt instead of Body Slam. Whenever it inflicts a flinch, the text scrolls by extremely quickly. You might be thinking that Slowpoke isn't going to flinch many Pokemon since it's very slow, but there are 2 Slowpoke in here that I have to face, and both of them are slower than my Slowpoke, so I can flinch them, and this causes the battles to go by so much quicker. In contrast, paralyzing them with Body Slam would make the battle go by slower, because it potentially could print more text during the entire fight, and the paralysis text scrolls slower than the flinch text does. The Status Condition Junior Trainer takes 2 shots on both of her Pokemon, making this fight also slightly scary, especially if the Oddish goes for Sleep Powder on turn 1. In this case, I got the ideal result because she went for Poison Powder, and the following Bulbasaur doesn't have Wrap. Time for Celadon City. I'm grabbing the Hideout Candy, picking up the Ice Beam TM from the department store, as well as a single Carbos, but I'm going to come back here to get more later on. I also spent all of my remaining money on Super Potions because I want to ensure that I'm not going to have to backtrack in the mid-game. One little advantage of holding onto a move like Headbutt is that it does less damage than Body Slam, making the process of weakening a Doduo to catch a little bit more reliable. This is just another reason that skipping Body Slam is the superior play with Slowpoke. Okay, time to upgrade my moveset. Ice Beam in the place of Confusion, and Psychic in the place of Bubble Beam. I'm holding onto Headbutt and Dig intentionally. It might initially seem that dropping Bubble Beam at this point in the playthrough is a mistake, but it really isn't. I want to hold onto Dig and Headbutt for now. I need physical damage, especially for 1 or 2 trainers coming up in the near future. The rival in Pokemon Tower is very easy. Ice Beam for Fearow, Dig for Magnemite, Psychic for Shelder, Ice Beam for Sandshrew, and Headbutt for the final Eevee. Provided I don't get hit by Growl, this gets a little little bit messy. In the end, I pull through. Now, while I don't outspeed the Ghastly in Pokemon Tower, do remember that the Psychic type is immune to Ghost type damage. Therefore, Lick is not going to be able to paralyze Slowpoke. And one of the primary reasons that I lose here is Confusion and Paralysis stacking together to make just the awful Quagmire that then gives the Ghastly multiple turns to use Nightshade. Let's do some training on Cycling Road, the Wheezing Biker as well as the Biker Boss. This gets Slowpoke up to level 34. I explore the Safari Zone, but I'm not yet going to teach Surf to Slowpoke. Instead, I'm going to go into Koga's gym. Now, this is why I've held on to physical moves, because I need a way to get by these Juggler more quickly. During the process of fighting both of them, I want to get poisoned. This is incredibly important. If you try to beat Koga with a Slowpoke that is moving slower than all 3 of the Venonats, 2 of them are going to spam Sleep Powder, and then the battle becomes absolutely awful. I tried it in my first playthrough like this. Here's a flashback to that, and yeah, it went terribly. The issue with these trainers is that Poison Gas is just really bad. They have a low chance of using it because Drowsy is also going to try for other moves, and then when Poison Gas actually gets selected, sometimes it just misses. So if I get poisoned here, I am just going to keep it for the next mandatory trainer. This is another reason it's important to stock up on super potions earlier. During the first Juggler in this run, I did get poisoned, which is a miracle. I actually lost an entire playthrough because I spammed out all of my uses of Amnesia against the second Juggler, and he still just didn't use Poison Gas, and then I had to knock out both of his Pokemon. After that, I lost to Koga over and over and over again and completely ruined my time. Anyway, we're not quite there yet. With this Juggler defeated, Slowpoke is level 35. I'm now going to use 5 candies to boost it up to level 40 and teach it Amnesia in the place of Headbutt. Then with the powerful setup move and Poison, I dispatch the final Juggler and take on Koga. Because of Poison, this fight is free. I can just set up Amnesia 3 times on the first Venonat, and then sweep all of his Pokemon with Psychic. Because of type effectiveness, none of them are attacking with good moves. The best thing that he can hit me with is his third Venonat's Double Edge, and after that I have enough health to survive the Leech Life from Venomoth. Slowpoke is now a high enough level that it can backtrack to Celadon City and take on Erika. I have natural one-hits on the Cool Trainer's Pokemon, and against Erika, after 1 Amnesia, I can one-shot all of her team. Also, I outspeed her Pokemon once I speed boost with Amnesia, which is a benefit of doing Koga first. Inside Silph, I fight 3 trainers: Machoke Candy, the Protein Scientist, and finally the mandatory Arbok trainer, which levels Slowpoke to 43. Before the rival, it's time to teach Surf in the place of Dig. This is why we needed to purchase escape ropes earlier, because I need them to get out of Silph as fast as possible without the field move. Surf is required for Rival 5 because without it I have to 2-shot the Sandslash using either Ice Beam or Psychic. By far the safest play here is one-shot the Sandslash so that it's less likely to hit you with a sand attack, but of course today it does because Slowpoke is slower. Then set up Amnesia against the Cloyster. After that, knock out all of the rival's Pokemon in a single hit each. Really the only way to lose here is if Confusion gets really annoying, because it can since Cloyster is spamming Supersonic over and over again. It's the only move it can select against Water-type Pokemon. With Silph complete, I am now going to head south to Cinnabar Island. On my way, I was supposed to fight this swimmer, but I accidentally just paddled all the way by him and went into the mansion. This is going to cause a little bit of an experience routing problem later on into the run. I backtrack to the department store and purchase more Carbos for Slowpoke. This is for a critical outspeed near the end of the game. Blaine is next, and Slowpoke can lose here. It's really annoying. The Ninetales can mess you up with Confuse Ray, or soften you up with Tail Whip, and then the Rapidash and the Arcanine, which still outspeed, can do massive damage with their physical moves. Slowpoke is pretty favored here after 2 Amnesias. It's gonna one-shot everything. I just need to be able to attack, which you can see isn't always possible. Rapidash sometimes just traps you with Fire Spin over and over again, wasting both time, but also getting you closer to defeat. Stomp hits, does a lot of damage, and my health is low for the Arcanine. If it went for Takedown, I would have lost, but instead it goes for Flamethrower. Because of Amnesia, I'm able to shrug it off and Surf one-shots. A first attempt victory against Blaine is pretty good, and now I'm 4 minutes ahead of my previous time. Throughout the mid-game, Slowpoke has been pulling further ahead of its previous result. But all of that is about to change. I head back to Saffron City, and I am going to skip Mimic. It's a rare choice to make in Generation 1 since the move is so good, but Amnesia is so good that I can rely on it with my current moves for almost the remainder of the game. But I will be making one change to my set for the final 2 battles. And it's not Rest because I didn't pick up that TM on the SSN. Okay, so Sabrina is a really unfortunate fight for Slowpoke. Even with 3 turns of setup from Amnesia, there is no way to outspeed her Pokemon. One potential solution for this fight is teaching Swift in the place of one of my current moves, and then using it in combination with Flash to just completely destroy her. The problem with that strategy is there isn't really a move that I want to give up at the current time. Ice Beam's useful, it's more accurate than Blizzard, and with Amnesia, its damage is more than good enough. I can never delete Surf or Amnesia. Surf is impossible to delete, and I never want to give up Amnesia. Plus, Psychic is really good for 2 trainers in the late game, and it has the same type attack bonus. For these reasons, I think that just running Amnesia and getting lucky with Surf, even though my accuracy is lowered, is the best way to play this. Unfortunately though, Psywave is my worst enemy here because it deals fixed damage. This bypasses all of my setup, and Sabrina's Pokemon are also quite fast, so they're pretty good at getting critical hits. And when they do, even Psychic can do a lot of damage despite the fact it's resisted. I got very unlucky here in my playthrough, losing 2 times to Sabrina, giving up a lot of my mid-game time advantage. When I finally got through the fight, I'm only 3 minutes and 6 seconds ahead. I had been struggling with Slowpoke playthroughs all day, losing to early game trainers like Youngster Ben. I'm gonna deal with the fact that I had an annoying Sabrina and just keep playing. This is not the ideal scenario, but it is what it is. I've got this far, let's continue. I'm gonna make up for the fact that I didn't fight the swimmer on my way to Cinnabar Island now by fighting this cool trainer inside of Giovanni's gym. He levels me up to 48, and then I can use 4 candies to go to 52 before fighting Giovanni. This fight is similar to Sabrina, there's just a lot of stuff that can go wrong because we're so slow. Dugtrio can hit us with Fissure, it can crit with Dig, which is what happens here, and it can also mess me up by using Sand Attack. On Persian, I need to set up 1 Amnesia to ensure that I one-shot the Nidoqueen and Nidoking. 2-shotting is unacceptable with Surf since they will be going for Thunder, and each one of them will have 2 chances to use the move since I'm slower. I think there is an argument for setting up more times against the Persian to ensure that you take less damage from Nidoqueen and Nidoking, but do remember that Giovanni can miss Thunder, it has a 30% chance of just completely whiffing, and he can also replace the use of the move with a guard spec. I did end up losing here once because I missed too many times against the Persian due to its double team setup, but in my second fight I get luckier. Dugtrio doesn't crit me, and then Persian just spams a bunch of non-damage dealing moves as well as missing with Fury swipes until I set up to +6 with Amnesia. Then I sweep the rest of Giovanni's team members. By the way, even with 3 turns of badge boost, I am still slower than the Nidoqueen, so it's able to attack with Thunder. The Nidoking does as well, but you can see they're just not doing enough damage when I've fully set up. Then Rhydon's an easy one-shot. The battle against Rival 6 looked really close. The Sandslash poisoned me on turn 1 with Poison Sting, and then it did decent damage with Slash. By the time I set up fully with Amnesia, my health is red, but remember in Generation 1 that you don't take poison damage if you knock out the opposing Pokemon, and I am able to do that for the remainder of the battle. The Kadabra could have attacked since it outspeeds, but instead it just goes for Recover, doing absolutely nothing since it had full health, and that's a win. So, Victory Road, 1 optional battle in here against the starter Cool Trainer to get Slowpoke to level 55. Slowpoke is on track to beat my previous time by at least 10 minutes. Let's see how it does in the final 5 battles of the game. Lorelei is really easy. I can just set up Amnesia here. Once I'm at +6, then I have Psychic to one-shot Dugong as well as Cloyster. Surf is my best choice against the Slowbro, which is pretty annoying, but because of my typing, it's just going to randomize its move selection, and with Amnesia setup, it can't do very much damage to me. Jinx just whiffs a Lovely Kiss, I knock it out, and then I have to 2-shot the Lapras. This is by far the most scary Pokemon Lorelei has, since it can use Confuse Ray or Paralyze with Body Slam, but because of my typing, it's not going to be choosing either Blizzard or Hydro Pump. So a critical hit with Body Slam into Paralysis is essentially the best thing it can get on any turn. It doesn't get the critical hit, but it does use Body Slam and Paralyze. Still, I just two-shot easily. This guy's pretty bad, by the way. Although the Hitmonchan can cause problems because I have one less speed than it. It could freeze with Ice Punch, but remember, it always has the chance to thaw you out by using Fire Punch. The battle against Agatha is also fairly straightforward. There's always stuff that can go wrong here, but for Slowpoke, after getting set up with Amnesia, it just crushes her team. And I don't even need +6. +4 is more than enough. This is where I'm going to make some changes. One rare candy before Lance to level 59. This is the last one in the playthrough. And then I'm going to teach Reflect in the place of Psychic, since a damage dealing Psychic type move is just not very good for Lance or the champion. And Reflect is going to make Lance so much easier. The reason to improve Slowpoke's physical defense is so that Lance does less damage with Gyarados when it uses Hyper Beam. It can't use Hydro Pump due to type effectiveness, but it also can use Dragon Rage or Leer. Eliminating massive damage from Hydro Pump, especially if it's Leer boosted, is critical to give me time to set up with Amnesia. The only downside to this plan is if Hyper Beam gets a critical hit, and today it does, giving me one reset. But if Hyper Beam doesn't get a critical hit, then I should be able to set up fully here with Amnesia. And taking time against Gyarados has another benefit, because we're rolling the dice for it to use one Leer. If it does, it will badge boost me enough to outspeed the final Dragonite. By the way, if I didn't do the second Mart trip to buy the extra Carbos, Dragonite would be faster after a single Leer. I would have to get hit by 2 in order to outspeed. And allowing the Gyarados to go for multiple Leers is very scary, because then Aerodactyl can do more damage. In this case, I had my defense lowered by 4 stages, and Aerodactyl chooses Hyper Beam, which luckily Slowpoke survives. It wouldn't have been able to if I didn't set up with Reflect. And now, since I'm faster than the Dragonite, I'm able to one-shot with Ice Beam and move on to the champion. I don't think I played this final fight particularly well. I want to set up Amnesia against the Sandslash early on, and hopefully here it's going to use bad moves like Poison Sting or Fury Swipes. It did too much damage to Slowpoke, but I decided to continue playing. This is fine because there is the potential to win, but I have to remember that Flareon at the end of the battle is going to be going for Quick Attack. Ice Beam is going to one-hit the Executor, and Surf miraculously is able to one-shot Magneton consistently. The problem is that Cloyster is going to take 2 turns to knock out. This gives it time to hit with 1 Spike Cannon, doing just enough damage that Flareon's Quick Attack ends Slowpoke. It was a painful reset, but I didn't make the mistake twice. In the next fight when Sandslash was doing a lot of damage, I reset quickly and tried the champion again. This time, everything works out. Sandslash did do a lot of damage, but not quite enough. Then I make it back to the Cloyster, its Spike Cannon only hits 2 times, and I'm able to survive Flareon's Quick Attack with only 12 health, knock it out, and finish the game with a time of 48 minutes. Just barely 10 minutes faster than my first run. Slowpoke had 7 resets, finished the game at level 61 with a game time of 2 hours and 57 minutes. Before the tier list, let's just look at the Oak battle. I actually want to use this footage to quickly talk about why I didn't choose Reflect against the champion. The reason's pretty simple. The Sandslash deals its most possible damage whenever it chooses Slash, and I don't want to give it more turns at the beginning of the battle to choose that move. Instead, I just want to roll the dice, set up Amnesia 3 times as quickly as possible, and then knock the Sandslash out. I had 3 resets to Oak, and Reflect ends up being useful here. It gives me more time to set up against the Tauros, and it also counters out any of its uses of Leers or Tail Whip. In this case, it just went for Rage though, so I'm not softened up at all. Then Surf for the Tauros, knock it out. I misclicked, I used Surf on Executor. It doesn't matter. It's a really bad Pokemon during this fight. I finish it with Ice Beam, Surf down the Arcanine after it tries to use Roar, doing absolutely nothing, and then I need to get lucky. Venusaur has Sleep Powder, and it goes for it, but then it chooses Solar Beam, giving Slowpoke time to wake up. Also, I tanked the Solar Beam fairly well. It chooses another one instead of putting me back to sleep, and Ice Beam one-shots. Then I get lucky again, because Gyarados goes for Dragon Rage, bringing Slowpoke down to 5 hit points. Ice Beam does not do enough damage to one-shot. It has to 2-hit the Gyarados. However, I get a lucky Freeze, and because of that, Slowpoke beats Oak. I'm a little bit disappointed with the results I got with Slowpoke. I was eyeing a time around 45 minutes. It would have been nice to get it at least into the B tier along Poliwag. But right now it is the 3rd place first stage Pokemon. Ghastly's the only one that's right now outranking it. And interestingly enough, all 3 of these highly ranked first stage Pokemon are actually quite frustrating to play. Poliwag and Ghastly are annoying because they have to use Hypnosis, so a lot of their battles feel like they require luck. And Slowpoke is annoying to play because it's just really slow and constantly gives the enemies chances to attack first. Today in this re-ranking, Slowpoke earns itself a spot in the C tier. But I do think if more people play this run, that eventually its time is going to get much lower than this. For example, Zealous Pawn in his runs was able to get a time of 45 minutes and 48 seconds using Slowpoke. And he said that he thinks it can go as fast as maybe 41 minutes, which would be an outstanding result for a first stage Pokemon. One last thing before I close out this video, I want to mention my first playthrough time again, which was 58 minutes and 24 seconds. Austin sat down and did a Slowpoke run as well, and in his first playthrough using Slowpoke, he also got a time of 58 minutes and 24 seconds. It was a ridiculous 0.03 seconds behind my run. And after he reported this result, Zealous Pawn posted his first playthrough with Slowpoke, and he got a time of 58 minutes and 37 seconds. That is 13 seconds slower than both Austin and my time. So in a first run, apparently Slowpoke just wants to get a time roughly 58 minutes and 30 seconds. Let me know if you also do a first playthrough with Slowpoke and get a similar time to all 3 of us. If you support the channel through Patreon or YouTube memberships, thank you so much, it means the world to me. Now, if you've made it this far, you're incredible. I'll see you in my next video.